Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beer Reviews. We have another little beer here that we got in Copenhagen. This is Mikkeller and Toll's Betelgeuze. Not Beetlejuice, but Betelgeuze. You know I like my sours and my lambics at the moment, and I'm definitely in the ballpark to try and try as many different ones as I can do, because it's a style. The sour beers are something I'm getting more and more in love with. I just, in general, love the flavour, and it's such a strange little niche corner of the beer market that I really want to try as many as I can. So this one in particular just seemed to leap at me because it's super interesting. It is pretty much just a lambic, just a straight lambic that they brewed, but it's dry hopped with citrus, centennial, amarillo, Nelson Sauvin, Galaxy, Columbus, Tomahawk, Tettnang, Belmer, Mandarina, Bavaria, Calypso, and Bravo, which is like a list of hops that I would love to have, to be perfectly frank. And I think, well, hopefully it'll have just a different dimension to the typical things that you usually hear me say when I have a lambic. When you talk about lemon and funky tartness and horse blanketiness, hopefully this will have something new that brings to the ballpark. So crack it on open. Hey. And pour it onto a nice Hill Farmstead wine glass. I was trying to think what do you drink these things in. So there's a lot of carbonation, as you can probably see. It's fizzing away, effervescent as anything. That'll do for now. It is a nice little cloudy apricot colour, I would call that. A little bit darker than your normal, just straight lambics. They're usually very straw white. This one's got like a twinge of apricot, a nice little oranginess to it, and there is a lovely tiny little head, and it laces beautifully on the side of the glass. Really, really beautiful lacing, in fact. Look at that. Pretty. So, let's get a nose on this. Okay. Right, first of all, I can smell a lot of oak. A lot of oak tannic, and there's a little bit of acid on the nose as well. And there is a typical lemon funky note. But then, also, on top of all of that, I'm getting kind of like... I'm getting something like a little bit of a sour tangerine or orange sort of smell. You know, when you get an underripe one, the ones that are just a little bit too tart, that need to be ripened a little bit more. I'm getting that. And it does smell quite juicy. There's perhaps a little bit of elderflower or something in as well. And it's a little bit more complex. It is a little bit more complex than, well, it is a lot more complex than your typical standard lambic smell. There's just that little extra something, this orangey note, this perhaps floral note, perhaps a little bit grassy. And it does smell just nice. It really does smell like an unripe tangerine. It does, and that's quite interesting. I think it's probably a very typical Mikkeller trick that they seem to like to do, which is put a lot of really good hops into a beer, and perhaps it doesn't need the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perhaps it doesn't need the 12 amazingly good, stupidly expensive hops in it to perform like this and give a dry hop nose. Or perhaps it does, I'm not entirely sure. I would have liked to have seen it perhaps with just a couple of them, maybe just a little smaller blend, and see what it would come out like, because I can't help but think, if you've got Mandarina Bavaria, you've got Citra in there, and you've got Galaxy, that you've got 3 hops there that pretty much have a very similar nose. You know, they all have a kind of tropical fruit flavour to them, or very fruity notes. Nelson Sauvin's there as well. God, I mean, there's just a list of amazing hops, and I'd like to see a little bit more definition perhaps in see what each hop would have liked to have done. But it's beside the point, because it smells good. It really does smell good. So the fact that they use 12 hops, yeah, it's on their nose, and I don't know if they use like a pinch of this and a pinch of that to get a blend, but it still smells pretty gorgeous. And I've been talking about this for hours without even trying it. So cheers everyone, let's give it a try. That's interesting actually. So right with the initial burst into the mouth, I'm getting this acidic tartness all the way across the entire palate, all the way around the roof of my mouth and across the back of the tongue. There's a little bit of like green apple flavour as well, quite prominent right near the beginning, and then it just sweetens out a little bit, and I get a little bit of what would you call it, malty? It almost tastes kind of what's the word for it? Bready, actually. I think it's kind of get bready, so you get this kind of green apple flavour, you get a little bread, and then I get a little bit of almost like hay at the end. In the barnyard funk a little bit later on, and then I get those kind of, I get a really grapefruit, you know, that orangey sort of nose that I got. It seems to come across on the palate. It's a bit more of a grapefruit, like a sweet, maybe like a pink grapefruit, something with a little bit more sweetness to it. In fact, it does taste a lot like grapefruits now I think about it. Grapefruits with some granola on top. How about that for an analogy? This is quite interesting. I quite like it. It's just a little bit different. A little bit different. It's got quite a medium body as well. Maybe medium light, as opposed to completely light like I'm more used to as well. And there's a lot of carbonation to it, but I quite like that. It does have a little bit more of has a little bit more body to it, just a little bit more. I think it just holds the flavour in the mouth. I'm trying to think of other flavours I can get in there, because it's quite complex, really. It's so much more complex. I don't want to say, well, it tastes quite lemony and quite tart, and there's a little bit of funk to it, because it's not. This isn't resemblant to other lambics I've had. The only other one that I've had that's probably been quite similar, in terms of the malt flavour at least, was perhaps Iris by Cantillon. This has got a lot more green apple, a lot more bittersweet fruit flavours in it. I really mean it when I say green apple, and I really mean it when I say grapefruit. And I like it. I really do like it. I think it's a good lambic that they've produced, and I think the dry hops do give a certain level of aroma to it as well. It's 5.5%, so it's not particularly strong, and it's not particularly weak. So perhaps they've got a good amount of body in it as well. Good amount of body in it. Perhaps there's some residual sugar still left over. I couldn't really tell you, but end of the day, actually this is a really nice lambic. I'm very glad I bought this. I'm not entirely sure how old it is either, so whether or not the dry hops have gone by now, but I got it from the Mikkeller & Friends store, so I assume it's of relatively new batch. And it's great. Oh, this is pardon me, this is a 9 out of 10. It's really good. I really like it. I would have liked to have seen, I sound such a cynic saying it, because I'm usually like, hops are brilliant, but I would like to see perhaps a simpler blend of hops, so I could just pick out the flavours that are in there, because with 12 hops in it, like I had with the Mikkeller 20, I could perhaps taste 2 out of the entire 20. This, I've got a feeling, I'm not smelling the complexity that should be there in terms of hops, and I'd like to have seen just a star key player. If there was just like Citra there, if there was just Galaxy, if there was just perhaps one of any of these. I would love to have seen Mandarina Bavaria. Or Nelson Sauvin or something like that. Actually, that's a point. Now I think about it, it's quite oaky as well. Perhaps that's the extra flavour I'm getting. I think it is. It's like a little woody oakiness in the mouth. Yeah, I'm glad I pinpointed it, because that's the word I wanted to say. I wanted to say oak, and it's kind of oak tannic. And it's lovely. 9 out of 10. I would like to see a different, simplified blend of hops, but I can't complain at all. I really can't. Well done, Mikkeller, to all. This is magnificent, and these are the sort of beers that one day I shall produce myself. So thank you, everyone. Please like, favourite, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think if you've tried Betelgeuze, or if you've tried any of the Spontan series by Mikkeller as well. And cheers till next time.